should have said that's my reading level.
Hey guys, if you can hear me, can you see me now?
Yep. Yeah, in a little box.
I don't know I don't know what was going on. I was having severe technical problems up till just seconds ago. But welcome. I have just hit the broadcast button. This is the San Carlos Computer Club. This is Scott Stempson from. Actually, today I'm from Lightspeed Networks in Arizona doing work, but I always am International Computer Solutions. So we're here today for the club and to help each other share news and obviously catch up with each other. This is a big crowd for the virtual meeting. Welcome everyone. Sorry, I'm a little behind schedule here. As the meeting kind of took off on its own, which is what I'm kind of hoping it will do since I've got other things I'm working on here. But I did provide a document of possible topics we might want to talk about. And I'm noticing that I have more than just one problem going on right now. There we go. There we go. Some of them are computer problems.
Good thing we have a problem solver amongst us.
Give me just one moment. I'm gonna go shut my door and I'll be back. You guys talk amongst each other.
Yada yada yada.
Until he interrupted, we were doing real well.
Yeah, I'm locked out of one of my iPhones. I don't know the password. Anybody got ideas?
The pass key.
Maybe
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
4, 5.
Well, I know. I'm pretty sure it's not.
So this is your iPhone.
Yeah, we have 2 iPhones, but we only have one working right now. And then we're heading off to Europe. We thought it would be nice to have 2 iPhones so that when we get lost in other places, we can connect with one another. And so I picked it up and I went, oh, what was the number on this thing? And tried a couple, and it's not that. So anyway, I thought, is there some kind of a rule, like if you put in 6 numbers, it just locks out completely, or?
Yes, there is. In fact, I would encourage you not to continue to try. Do you have your Apple ID and password? Because you're probably much closer to figuring this out with that. And I'm looking at an Apple document right
my
now.
own Apple ID. Well, there's a problem. Yeah, because there I guess there's a bit of a problem there. Because I'm a Luddite and Carolyn is a crash. She always had a great IT department when she was an executive assistant. So she runs them, and when they hit a wall, then she just goes, IT, please. And so we're quite a pair. So it might be in a name that she's created for me, or it might be in hers. So I need the ID and password, right?
Well, so
yeah.
This is not a trivial problem. This is Apple's support document.
No.
I'll send you a link to it. Let's get into, where do we have there it is, our chat. There's 7 of us. Look at that. I'm going to paste this.
Why don't you just call Apple?
Call Apple?
Yeah.
Apple. Oh.
It's like calling all the.
And just let them know what's happened.
Let them know what happened.
Yeah.
You know, say buy a new phone.
No, they won't.
They
okay,
won't,
good.
but I've got a feeling they're going to hand you the document I just put in the chat, and I'll stick it in our document as well here that I share.
Okay. Thanks.
But essentially, it looks like you need to reset that phone. that there is no way to, when you've forgotten the pin to your hardware, there is nothing Apple is providing that would allow you into that hardware. That your one
So that means all the photos and everything are gone?
That's exactly what that means.
Oy, oy, oy.
It means
Oh,
that
hi,
anything
Sandy.
that's in the phone is going to get reset. Now, if you've been a good Apple owner, you probably own iCloud and you've been backing it up to the cloud, so resetting it's not a big deal. If you're like me, you don't have a backing up in the cloud, but periodically you make backups to your computer through a cable. And so hopefully I would have a backup recent enough for my phone that it would be relevant to put back into the phone. But there's nothing here to get into that phone if you don't have the pin. And so the solution is to wipe the phone and set it up again using your Apple account.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Apple offers as a solution.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what
Okay.
that-
Well, and then, well, and what about just trying some of the other things that I think it might be?
Yeah, you can try it. What Apple does is, as you get the passcode wrong over and over again, it will continue to extend out the amount of time you have to wait to try again. And so it's not uncommon to find an iPhone that has a 300-day wait period on it because it's just been tried up to that point.
Huh.
If you do have a 300-day wait period on it, something ridiculous like that, it's still the same solution. So you can continue to try passwords until it gets ridiculous, knowing that the option I'm telling you about is the only option if you don't have the PIN.
Okay,
Regardless
now,
of, yeah.
when Judy said call Apple, is there a number or what? You just?
They don't post a number, but you can Google a number for Apple. And
Okay.
and I have successfully and quickly talked to Apple in the past. And so I would give it a try, giving them a call. If you have an Apple store in your area, I would try going in or talking to them.
No, I'm 100 and I'm a long ways from an Apple store.
Okay. I'm
So the number I have is a US number, 800-275-2273. Apple support.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Maybe it works.
that's what's come up on the Google search is that number. So I suspect that's the correct one.
Okay. I'll try that. I'll try both of those things, and I might try another option.
Yeah.
And
Sure,
then-
it's your phone.
and then if I get it going, I got to try and find an eSIM card to use in Europe, which is going to be an interesting thing too for me.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you buy it there at the airport?
Well,
Say again.
well, the real question is why would you choose eSIM?
People have been recommending it to me, and you think I should just buy a card and put it in?
Well, I think if it's not your main location, that's easiest for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have to go through the programming and setting up. And maybe I'm wrong on this. I haven't done it in a while, but getting an eSIM set up is typically working with a carrier so that so they're getting your unique ID number and associating it with a contract. It's something that I intuitively think is better to be done in my local area where I could go to an office if I had to, versus the unique area I'm going to, because in a unique area you can just, well, for example, like Mexico, you just walk into an OXXO and buy a SIM card, stick it in your phone. You don't have to really speak the language or visit the office.
Right. So you think that doing something like that in England would be the way to do it? At least I speak the language there.
Yeah, yeah. If you're gonna program the eSIM, but again, James, I think you probably want the eSIM programmed in Canada
Oh,
and have for your local connection, or whatever that local number is, and leave your SIM slot free for whatever unique service you might be adding to the phone.
hmm.
If you were to travel, maybe it's a bad example. If you were to travel to Japan, you'd want to be able to buy a SIM and stick it in your car without having to deal with phone, with going through that process of turning on the eSIM. Yeah, Judy, what's your?
Well, I'm a little confused. Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just go to the country you're going to and buy a card and put it in your phone? I don't quite understand the
That's what
eSIM.
I'm talking about.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that's maybe what I should do, and just go to a kiosk or something there and buy a card, and because that's what we
at
do in
the
Mexico.
airport.
At the airport, you think? Okay, yeah, then we can have it right from the beginning.
Well,
But
I mean,
if you're already using a SIM in your phone, then you'll be replacing that service with the one you buy if you've already got the SIM card. And so
Well,
I'm suggesting you get your local service switched over to the eSIM, your persistent phone number switched over to the eSIM,
oh
and
yeah,
that leaves the SIM card free to be
oh,
used wherever
right.
you want to buy service.
oh yeah, and so then
So
you'd have both services in the one phone.
that's right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I understand. Thanks.
Okay, so but if I do what Judy was suggesting, just pull it out and put another one in, then I lose the Canadian one.
That's right. Well,
Okay.
not only that, you have the potential of losing the SIM card. Put it in a safe place if you pull it out.
Yeah, I know. And then where's a safe place when you're traveling? In the bottom of your suitcase?
Right? So I think the most practical thing to do, at least from my perspective, and I do know that the latest iPhones are dual eSIM, so you can no longer use SIM chips in them.
Hmm.
And so this idea of programming an eSIM has to get easier. I'm assuming it's going to get easier over the course of the next year. But I feel comfortable telling you should get your your persistent number set up as the eSIM, and then that slot is just free to use for whatever service you happen to buy on the fly.
Okay, and so I end up having my phone works and in Canada and it'll have an empty slot there.
That's right.
Okay,
It's you have your cake and eat it too.
there you go. All right, I haven't had that for a long time. Anyway, thanks for your help on that. I'm glad that you were all there to help me out with that number too.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're having that issue with the phone. I'd try some more passwords because in the end it's the same solution.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll do that because once I started realizing that it was not what I thought it was, then I did try it a couple times. Carolyn has even tried it once, but it's taking opportunities now for me anyway. So
Yeah, you might space out your attempts just to try and limit how long it might wait before giving you another opportunity. If you
Okay.
look at the document that I put the link in for, it'll show you a picture of a iPhone screen that like after you've attempted so many times, it starts adding time on. It says so many minutes, so many minutes. And the really worst case scenario is you try your password and the next message is you got to wait 4 days. You got to wait 7 days. You've got to wait 30 days before you can attempt again.
Right.
And so you might just try spacing out how you might try a password, wait 15 minutes, try another code, try another code, wait 15 minutes, just so you're not persistently bashing at it, or it may just shut you down real quick.
Oh, good. Well, I've got a couple of weeks till we're leaving, so we're good.
Cool. All right.
I'll have to check in from to the club from when I'm over there in England. Have we had anybody come in from Europe before?
From England, I don't believe.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we've had Fred pop in from different places on cruise ships. Paul, have you done the cruise ship pop in before?
No.
All right, you have a goal now. Next time you're out there cruising.
The first
Because I have internet on the ship, so.
Do
The
you?
cost of sending messages from a cruise ship is pretty high. I don't remember the amount, but it was outrageous per minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, has that changed, Paul? I know you're a regular cruiser.
Yeah. I've never tried to access the internet on the cruise. I'm usually pretty busy watching the movies.
I was gonna say you probably sound pretty healthy if you're not trying to get on the internet while you're on a cruise.
Yeah.
Well, has anybody brought any other topics or questions or troubleshooting that we might be able to help with? Hello, Chester. Hello, Mom. Hello, Jim.
Bill,
I think that should have hit all my hellos for today. I got Judy in there. I got Paul in there earlier. Bill in there earlier.
Okay, all I had was the crash of Facebook or Meta this morning.
Oh yeah, you know what? I haven't paid any attention to that. Bill, do you want to provide us with the news?
I don't know. I was on Facebook a couple hours ago, and all of a sudden I get a screen that says, "Oh, you got to log in." Never seen that before. When I tried that. I tried the password, and none of this was working. And I finally gave up, and then I see on Twitter that it's the whole system, the whole other system crashed. But they're back up now, as far as I can. But everything that Meta has crashed. That's all I know.
That's all you know. I see Chester's got his hand up.
Yeah, I had trouble really getting Bill's his speaker was broken up, but
Yeah,
I had trouble this morning getting on Facebook. I couldn't get on, and I think that's what Bill was talking about.
Yeah, he said it was down. Bill, Chester's right. When you were talking right there, we were listening to really poor quality audio that was choppy, coming in and out.
I don't know. Is it choppy now?
What are you using for a microphone? Because something on.
Oh, it's just the computer, the laptop.
Yeah. Well, Chester's not wrong. It's pretty bad.
Well, then I'll just quiet. How's that?
Oh, there you go. If you lean forward,
talking.
it's better.
Oh, is it better now?
Oh wow, yeah, that's amazing.
I'm sitting back in my chair, and maybe that's all the problem is. So if I'm talking, I have to be up here. Okay,
Yeah, there must
I'm finished talking.
There must be some kind of background audio canceling that's going on that you're falling into as you fall farther away from the
Yeah.
computer.
see you later this afternoon.
What's that?
See you this afternoon.
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram back after massive outage. This is an hour ago. I'm just now doing the Google search on it. Have you noticed they're starting another new look of Google? They really don't have to change the look of Google. They just have to put good results back up instead of advertising. I really don't care what it looks like. It just needs to be reliable. But yeah, it looks like there was a huge outage. Meta outage. Outage. But the news is it's back. Thousands of users report problems. I'm doing
That's probably a test they have to see who cares.
right. Well, do you remember there was a while back when they would block your login, your legitimate login, just to study what you might do about it? Yeah, Judy. Are you there? I see your hand is up and you're muted.
I had an odd thing. It was last week. I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm
here. Other
it
people
might
can
be,
see me and hear me.
it might be me.
No, I'm not.
I can hear
Scott.
you.
It might be me. I'm realizing I'm pushing my computer to the limit.
Take it to the
So
max.
can you hear me now, Scott?
Yes.
No. Oh, okay. So last week I had a strange message when I looked at my Wi-Fi connection. Now this is only on my iPad. It didn't seem to be on my iPhone or on the laptop. So it just said under my first, I have two different Wi-Fi connections, even though you told me they're the same. Under the first one, it would have security alert. And when I switched to the other one, it did not. So one of the things that when I was typing in troubleshoot security alert, it said to reboot, turn off your device and then reboot your modem. And I did both, and it didn't fix it until Sunday when the message was gone. Very strange.
Yeah.
Like when you look on when I look on my iPad at my connection.
I know
my
exactly
Wi-Fi
what you're talking about. I don't know why it would be gone when it's showed
I don't
up.
know, but it's gone.
I mean, we have new security standards, and I know that Apple has adopted those as the what to be considered the secure standard. So if you're not at that level, you're considered unsecure. But it's a very high bar in Apple. So it doesn't surprise me that you might get that message, especially off of equipment that's not the latest Wi-Fi equipment out there. I'm not talking about your computer, but I'm talking about the router that you're connected.
Right.
That just wouldn't surprise me. But the fact that it went away seems very strange.
And that it wasn't on when I log into, this was on the one that I log into as 11. When I log into the one that's 11_5, the message was not there.
Well, and I know that some of these, and I'm talking vaguely because I understand it vaguely. I have to go out and research it. But I know that these new security standards work hand in hand with the standard of Wi-Fi that you're using, and that the 5G allows you different speeds. It also could be incorporated right into a security standard as well, because you're able to move across so many different channels. It could be part of that security standard. So that doesn't, I mean, I don't find that all surprising. I find it just disappearing and appearing as surprising.
Right.
And
I just checked a few minutes ago, and it does not have that security alert anymore. It's gone. Very strange.
I wonder if it says more about your router than it does your computer. Yeah, I definitely
maybe.
keep an eye on it. If you're seeing it come and go, that's bad.
Right.
Regardless of what it means, it shouldn't be coming and going.
But the weird thing was that it did not, at the time that it was on my iPad, that message was not on my iPhone.
Gosh, yeah, that seems very.
It was very strange. So anyway, that was my tech info for the day. Non-info.
Well, I don't have much more than those thoughts on it because I've run into those kinds of things, but I've always been able to rationalize them away. Your situation is strange, and if you tell me that you checked it with your iPhone, that's even stranger now that if it did not have the problem on the iPhone, maybe we're back to thinking there's something odd going on with the iPad.
Maybe,
Yeah.
except it's only on the 11, not, the one place that I go to Wi-Fi, not the other.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, again, that doesn't seem well.
yeah.
On
I don't know.
no on if you connect to the other one on your iPhone, you don't have the same experience. It doesn't give you the security message.
No,
Yeah, that's
it does not.
yeah.
It was very
That's
interesting.
yeah.
So
Well,
I
if it comes,
decided that if it was really freaking me out, I would just always use the _5 one. Yeah.
well, what I do know from experience is that the i devices have told me before in areas I know are secure to the standard that I think is secure. They've told me it's not as secure as it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because of that high bar that I've been talking about. And essentially, that message will go away. The latest version of that message will go away when you've got the latest version of whatever the Wi-Fi standard is. And so it's really odd that it would be obtuse like that. It would be not very obvious what's going on.
Right. And since
That-
I have fiber optics, I was even more confused.
Well, it would be the Wi-Fi that message is based on. You're connected to Wi-Fi,
Okay.
so it doesn't matter what's on the other side of the Wi-Fi. It's the Wi-Fi that's determining why that message would be coming or not.
Well, yeah, like sometimes if I'm in a restaurant and I'm on their Wi-Fi, I get that message and that doesn't worry me because I know why I am. It just worried me that I'm sitting in my house and have a message on one device and not on the other. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
again, it's persistence that you're looking for.
Okay.
That inconsistency is what makes you concerned.
Right.
And my thought would be that it would be the hardware. I would think that looking at it and connecting the same way as the iPhone actually makes it look like it might be an iPad thing. So
That's
I
what I
just
thought too, but then I couldn't figure out
yeah, I
what I
would just
do about
keep
that
an
either.
eye on it. If
Yeah.
it continues, it might be worth making a backup of the iPad resetting it and restoring the backup.
Nah, I won't do that. I'll buy a new one.
Is it an older iPad?
Yeah, I think it's I can't remember what what it actually
Okay.
says about it, but
Is it running the latest operating system?
of course,
Okay, so it's not old enough to be out of date.
it's an iPad Pro. What?
It's a Pro.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's an iPad Pro model. iPad OS 17. That's the version. It's just an iPad Pro, so it's old. I mean, it's probably
Maybe it's the
maybe
original.
8 years old.
Okay, so it could be like a first generation
Mm-hmm.
Pro.
Mm-hmm. Because when you click on everything and to get your device information, it says iPad Pro. It doesn't say generation 1 or generation 2.
Does it have like a model number, like a 5,1, something like that?
Mm-hmm.
A 2.3. It would be a number by itself.
No, it
No.
has a serial number. That's all.
Well, it looks like
No,
the first
just my
gen came out in 2015.
That could be when I got it. That probably is. Because when I look at my MacBook Pro, it's a MacBook Pro 13, and that's all it tells me when I'm looking at my Apple ID.
Yeah. No, it doesn't give you an idea of the date.
No.
Yeah, and
I thought I could somehow find the date. I did find the date someplace. Maybe that's on my Apple account that it's on there somewhere.
Well, I was going to say, from your own experience, you've run into the date on your MacBooks because that's how they
Yes.
determine the models.
Right. And one's a year older than the other, and I think the MacBook is a year older than my iPad. So, but anyway, that's my story today.
It
It was
like,
before 20,
yeah, and
for
it's
sure.
still, your gadget is still compatible with the latest version of the software.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Given that it's 8 years old, there's 7 years is really the one you.
Mhm.
Yours is actually, if it's 2015, yours is 9 years old and it's still compatible. So that is impressive because they're on the hook for.
It may
7
not be
years.
that old too. You know, one never knows. Or at least I don't know. Unless I look back in my files, which I'm not going to do, to find out when I bought it.
Okay, well, do we have other topics? Because I did bring some stuff I thought was entertaining. I don't know if you guys looked at my list or not. But did you see that HP wants to make printing a service in your house? They have they're releasing this article from Ars Technica is actually a fun read because there's such disdain in the author's voice as you read through their eyes this whole idea of renting a printer that you're responsible for the cheapest subscription service they've got is $7 a month. They provide the printer and 20 printed pages. They're angling this at the consumer market. The idea is small business and homes might find it easier to just have printing as a service. And they're providing the equipment, the ink, but it's what you pay is almost like, you've heard of surge prices. It's kind of like surge printing. It's your subscription fees go up based on how many pages you need to print out monthly. Some of the disdain is about you can't get into this unless you're in a 2-year commitment with HP. And one of the big things that pops out here is that they want to know everything about your printing. It's part of the deal. If you decide to subscribe to their printing program, you need to keep your printer on, not only online, but not only online in your house, but it has to be on internet so that HP can access it and get updates, analytics off of your behaviors with the printer. This article, the writer talks about how the terms of service leave it open for you to be on the hook for 2 years of paying for this printer, even though HP might take services away because you did things like didn't connect it to the internet. So they could charge you for the 2 years, but they could withdraw the printing service, your ability to print, because you did something to violate the terms of service you agreed to by getting into this. It's a very pointed article. It's obviously, she's got some really good points in it. And what's really fun is to read the reader comments. If you go to the end of the Ars Technical article, there's a place called Readers Comments. If you click on that, it'll open up a bunch of people making smart-ass remarks just like we would about how we don't have to buy an HP printer. It's like there is a third option to owning an HP printer or having service, and that's not owning an HP printer. So the article goes into other frustrations that HP owners have had, such as, and we're familiar with the region coding. so that you have to use ink from the same region you bought the printer from. People have brought US printers down to find out that Mexican ink won't work and vice versa. Persistent problem with HP and the way they're treating their customers. As well, there's the issue of fake cartridges. I'm sorry, I keep wanting to do things with my computer, realizing that I'm just asking it to work way too hard while I'm hosting this meeting. Judy, you wanted to add something?
I did. I just wanted to say I finally found it. It's a third generation. So that was from 2012. So it's old.
Oh. Well, if it's a Pro, it should be from much newer than 2012.
Oh, so maybe that's where I messed up. I didn't type in Pro.
Yeah, iPad Pro. I saw that the first generation was 2015. And I don't know how many. I know there's at least a second generation, but I'm not sure how many generations they're at. Oh, these comments finally came up. No thanks. I'll just pay $100 for a printer every 5 years, and maybe use it 5 times a year.
2018, Scott. 2018. Okay. Which sounds
That's good.
better.
That's still 6 years. Yeah.
Well, you told me when we talked about it last time that it's time for me to probably think about a new one. So I'm thinking about it.
Okay. You guys have heard this this new terminology that's being spread across the internet called the in-shitification. It's when you take a service or a product, it's like a tech provided service or product that people genuinely love and gets a following, and then they pivot it to making money, and it fills up with ads, and it starts tracking you, and it turns the product into a horrible product. Sometimes it can happen overnight. But what's his name? Cory Doctorow termed this phrase a few months ago, and it's just caught on in the internet like a wildfire, and everybody is pointing out the in-shitification of technology in various forms. Anyway, this is just par for the course for HP. I'm old enough. You guys, of course, remember when HP was a solid brand in printers, when that was a decent printer that would have years of life, high quality, and good support. None of that is true anymore for HP. I don't try to teach people to be brand loyalists. And they ask me, well, what printer should I buy? I don't have a printer brand that I recommend anymore. There aren't any good printers. I think the good printer is the one that costs $80 at Walmart. And then when the cartridges get too expensive, I can give that to recycling and go buy the latest $80 printer at Walmart. It's just disappointing to see that a technology like this would polarize so to such a ridiculous spectrum, where you have just the crappy basic printer, or you have the really expensive poster picture printer, and both of them have the same potential problems of not working. You let them both sit for a year, and you go to pay over $300 for the printer over on this hand, and you pay $80 for the printer on this hand. You let them both sit in a closet for 2 years, and you pull them out. You may have the exact same kind of problems and frustrations with both printers. So why would you invest any real amount of money into a high quality printer?
Especially if you go away for 6 months every year. Yeah, we went through that whole system, and you can see the new one, and it's an HP, and we are having trouble with it. We've actually gone to they're sending us the cartridges because we can't make other ones work. So it's not good, but it's our printer for now.
This subscription model with HP. I've run into it before. I've had customers that have come to me with a printer that is a subscription printer. Now, this is the first time it's been so cheap. That's really the news, is it's just trying to get people in at a really low price.
Mhm.
But this printer would not use cartridges that were purchased in the marketplace. And when you looked at the cartridges that came for the printer, they were noted HP subscription cartridges. And the printer actually needs a firmware update to use genuine HP cartridges that are not part of the subscription program. So it's a whole lot of tech monkeying when you have this potential. It's like governing a car. Yeah, it's them using technology to block your ability to take advantage of capacities that were integrated and built in, but shut off because of the way they're being presented in the market.
Would a person be better off getting a laser printer?
Not necessarily. I mean, they are cheaper than they've ever been before, but that's not necessarily a good sign. Right? It's like you can get a laser printer now for about $300 at Sam's Club, and it's got great quality, and they're fast, and they produce many pages very quickly. If you don't need color, they're really cheap. I think that 300 I just quoted is probably based on a black and white laser printer. It's probably more like 500 if you get color. But the problem is that they'll break down as well, and laser printers have lots of moving parts, so there's a lot of opportunity for a laser printer to have problems. So you're not really buying a printer that has less problems. It's more about the use case. And I suspect that, well, and I've seen from my own experience, a laser printer these days at that low end, they're lasting the same amount of time. And so it's really about how you're using them. Do you have to print out 100 pages a week or 50 pages a day? A laser printer makes a lot more sense than an inkjet printer, just from the cost and volume of ink alone. But that's how you're making you're not, Paul, I wish you were making a purchase decision like that based on longevity of the equipment, but the equipment has become crap throughout the market. And so you're really making your purchase decision based on how you're using the device. And how long the device will last, that's really a big question. Did you guys see that? I just saw Consumer Reports on LG refrigerators. And apparently there's this model of LG that is the most frequently recycled or thrown away refrigerator. And they have tracked it down to the kind of pump that is used in the refrigerator. And so they've saved, I don't know, nickels on the design because of the way they've designed this for production. But LG knows this refrigerator dies in 5 years. They're not worried about making it last any longer. They're worried about setting a price point that it's not unrealistic for you to replace it in 5 years. And this design has been adopted to other. LG actually makes refrigerators for other name brands like Kenmore's. And so this is just more of this in-shitification of technology that we're seeing. Programmed obsolescence, tracking and manipulation they're making money not off of the product but off of you. They're like with our TVs. We just bought a TV. I'm sorry. I guess I'm going off on a rant, but these are my most recent experiences in this area. Sid came and visited me for a month, and I had an ancient projection TV that had finally given up the ghost. And he's like, "Well, I'll buy a new TV for the office." And so yeah, we got online and bought a 55-inch Samsung at a fairly reasonable price. And one of the things that is new in this version of the Samsung software is we plugged in an Xbox and a PlayStation, two different gaming consoles, HDMI 1 and HDMI 2, and you would think you would be changing sources, but this TV recognizes that there's an Xbox on HDMI 1, and so it has the Xbox application that encapsulates everything that comes and goes to that game station. So now not only is Microsoft and Xbox keeping track of our activities, but the Samsung TV is keeping track of my Xbox activities because they built a hook for when it finds Xboxes, it can grab those analytics and use those for its decision making in the future, or marketing, or pricing, whatever it might be. It had the exact same setup for the PlayStation. We plugged the PlayStation into HDMI 2, but it's really not HDMI 2. It is the PlayStation application from Samsung that allows us to place PlayStation on the TV set. And the entire time that that PlayStation is being used, it is monitoring those activities off of that HDMI connection. The in-shitification of technology.
You're basically saying the best is already happened.
It's all downhill from here. We will always be getting improvements. We'll have an 8K TV at some point. It'll be cheaper than we ever had to pay for the expensive 4K. But the real reason will be because they're collecting analytics on you and selling it to advertisers, product developers, or
It'll
using
only
it.
last for 5 months.
Oh, another thing with this TV, I don't know if we'd actually talked about it already or not. We could not take advantage of any of the smart TV features without having a Samsung account. It's the first Samsung I've run into like this. The previous Samsung TVs I've run into, you didn't have to use the smart features, and you could use sources. You could do HDMI, and you could do this on this TV as well. You had sources and you had live TV. That's all you could do with this TV. TV has built into it a Wi-Fi and the ability to cast from your phone, your mobile device. However, to use that feature, you had to sign up for a Samsung account. There was no way to use that feature. It would not turn on unless you signed up with Samsung and let it monitor your activities to be able to use that feature. More of the same. I don't have any solutions. I just have complaints. This is what they're doing. To the extent that there's that free TV out there, a very high quality dual screen free TV that they'll send to you, and you sign an agreement that you're gonna let them collect all your behavior with it.
Don't buy a Samsung TV.
Well, it's not just Samsung; it's all of them. This is the current state of affairs. That's why, in fact, that's the reason this free TV has a market, is because what they're saying is all the smart TVs are collecting information on you. That's the reason they're so cheap, is because they make their money by selling your information. So we're going to do that as well, but we're going to say it right up front. We're going to get your permission for it right up front, and we're going to give you a really nice TV for free for doing it. Are you showing me how much time we have left? Call in soon is what? Oh, 4 minutes. Okay. Very good. Anyway, I don't think this is going to work. There is a place for subscription service printing, and that's in very high-end printing capacities, where you're doing lots of printing and you're using specialized printers. A subscription service makes sense when it includes maintenance of the computer, the resources that you're using, maintenance of the printer, the resources the printer uses, service and support. It makes sense. If you're an architectural firm and you're printing out sheets of blueprints, you want a blueprint printer, you don't want to be responsible for that equipment. Subscription service makes sense. But in your house, printing 20 pages a month at most, $6 a month, I don't know if you want to get into that. When you're committed for 2 years at a pop, if the printer has a problem, you're on the hook for the repair from what I read. They give it to you, but they don't service it. They don't make sure it works. And you can violate their terms of service to the point where you're still on the hook for 2 years, but they can turn off your printing. It just seems like it's not they're trying to get into the consumer market, but there's nothing about that that's appealing. However, my next article is very appealing. I love this. I just recommended Lenovo to somebody that was looking for a new computer. And the only thing I don't like about this is the price. They're fairly expensive. But these Lenovo's are built with user serviceable parts. This is along the theme of what we've seen with the California law that is changed. And so these are ThinkPads, which are high quality construction, highly reputable laptops, and they are building these next models so that a user can replace the Wi-Fi card, the SSD card, the RAM cards, even the screen and the motherboard can be changed as long as they create a motherboard replacement for it. They've got two different versions of this. Both of them are over $1,400. But this is in the right direction. This is the way we want our manufacturers to be making equipment from now on. This is forward thinking. And if you were in the market for a new Windows-based laptop, then I would steer you towards this if you had the budget for it. There are $300 computers in the market. If that's really what you're going for, those exist. But I was not paying attention. Oh, good. I've got sound right off the bat. Sometimes I think I find
We're all
myself
back.
too fascinated, and I lose track of
Except the
time.
mighty leader.
Yeah, where's Scott?
He talked right through the
Yeah.
meeting ending.
Did you catch it all?
Yes, I think sometimes I find myself quite fascinating and get lost in my own dialogue. Thank you for being here.
You're lost in the exuberance of your own verbosity.
That's right. Anyway, this is a good thing, and it's indicative of where the market needs to be going and our concerns into the future. And I'm just happy to see Lenovo do this. They have a reputation. Chinese company that took over the ThinkPad line from IBM, and they have a reputation of having kept the quality high like IBM required. And they also have a reputation, a new reputation, that IBM didn't have of trying some of the most innovative changes in the market. And so I'm happy to see this. So for as bad as HP is being with their printing, Lenovo's being good with their laptops. And then the third article I brought just was an interesting, I would not have taken it seriously if it hadn't been posted in the IEEE website. It's a article about therapy, non-intrusive therapy to combat Alzheimer's. And it really goes into these studies that have been going on in MIT about using 40 hertz sound and light oscillation. And there are already products going out on the market that are oh gosh, what would you call them? Like headsets that have audio and light that oscillate at 40 hertz to kind of stimulate the brain. And the idea is that they're showing that these tones are breaking up that plaque, whatever that is, that whatever the technical term is for that. The latest in Alzheimer's studies talk about how this is doing here it is, a neural cleansing process. It's called glymphatic clearance, which is what's lacking in Alzheimer's sufferers, at least in their studies. The 40
It's interesting.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry.
Well, it's interesting to see that they're finding this as therapeutic and beneficial, because we've got things just laid on us, like our electricity is at 60 cycles, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And when I was a kid in Southern Ontario, the whole system had been built at 25 cycles.
At 25 cycles.
Yes, and so they had to. They actually had to come in and they retrofitted the whole culture. That they gave us new radios and new motors on washing machines and all sorts of things, and changed it over to 60 cycles because that was the standard, because it wasn't standard. But as they were going through this, you could go from your place where it was now 60 cycles to somebody else who hadn't gotten changed over yet, and you could actually see the 25 cycles in the light.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you could once you knew it was there. I mean, when we were living with it, that's just the way it was. But as soon as you had the 60 cycles, you could again see that. So I just wonder about all the rest of the things. You know, people with hearing aids, one in each ear, they're talking to each other right through their head. You got to wonder what if 40 is so therapeutic, then what are all these other things?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you think of like life has natural harmonics, and it sounds like 40 might be one of those that naturally we should be in tune with. And the dissidence of being disharmonic can be harmful, like break glass sometimes.
Yeah, especially if you have like you say that when you have two different waves at different times, how they multiply at times and then dissipate. So it's going to be interesting research that's going on there.
Yeah, it sounds like at the very least fodder for a sci-fi story. Mm-hmm. You could Carol, imagine if the background of our international conflicts really stems from some sort of annihilation of these different frequencies at different times under different the brown sound. What is that called? The Cuba syndrome. That
right, yeah.
we're talking about people that are getting sick, diarrhea, throwing up headaches,
Hmm.
and they're blaming it on having a beam-formed weapon shaped at the embassy or
Yeah.
different circumstances.
Well, and just the randomness of it all. I mean, just imagine how many GPS systems are driving around, and everyone talking to, and all the cell phones. Every cell phone is got some kind of a different signal coming out, and they're all passing right through us everywhere we go. So we're in the soup, that's for sure. This is trying to stay pure and eat right and all that sort of thing. We're already in that. But,
Well, it's very interesting. Also with the cell phones, because of the concerns about radio waves and how they might affect us and our health. Our biggest concern has always been radiation. Because it's non-ionizing radiation, it's considered to be safe. But none of that has anything to do with this idea of harmonics and the wave frequencies, the frequencies themselves causing some kind of harm to you.
mhm.
So yeah, it's very interesting. And
I
I
used,
think of go ahead, Paul. I'm sorry.
well, I used to go on cruises, uh, scientific cruises, and our ship would be warming up, tied up to the dock, and the engine would be idling at about the same as a heartbeat, and you could feel it. It was very disconcerting, and it made me feel sick to have this thing going, 70 RPM or something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I found the article very interesting. IEEE I consider a vetted source for information and technology. And so I think of this as I mean honestly I think of this as some touchy feely hooky stuff, and then I read it here and it's like, oh well, maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Maybe this is a real thing. So I surprise myself that I bring it to the table. If it wasn't for the publication, I probably would have just disregarded it.
I wonder if it as applicable for um, just general degeneration because of age as it would be for Alzheimer's.
The way it reads to me, I think it would. I think that we might see therapeutic uses. Well, I'm sure we are, because they mentioned products that are already going out to market. There's nothing harmful about 40 hertz that we can see. So the benefits really outweigh any kind of negative effect. I mean, the biggest negative effect is some scammers taking your money for a product that's not helping you. I think that's the biggest negative effect from what they're showing in this research. And these are two MIT doctorates that are saying this is really promising information, promising enough that we should be building therapies out of it.
Let's hope.
Yeah, wouldn't it? It would be nice to. I mean, what is it we know now? You can have a gene that shows that you are susceptible to Alzheimer's behavior in the future. So you can predict if you were going to be having problems in the future. Therapies like this, regardless of whether you knew you were going to have problems or not, could be just integrated into your personal hygiene habits, just to keep yourself fresh and clear.
Yeah, well, when you see that your whole lighting system is oscillating, then if there was an optimum, it might be possible to just do the whole house. I mean, at 40 hertz, I don't think it would really, wouldn't make our incandescent lights ineffective.
Well, incandescent, no, but solid state blows up when you change the frequency at which it breaks.
Yeah.
Physical damage gets done when it's not at because everything's built at that 60
On
hertz.
60, yeah.
Yeah.
But, well, it's we'd have to be retrofitted. Wouldn't that be exciting?
Well, and we've got so much technology going into illumination right now that it's not inconceivable to think that they'll come out with LED light bulbs that oscillate at 40 hertz. You
Mhm.
plug them into 60 hertz, but they oscillate at 40 hertz.
Mhm.
That seems like a real possibility for the future.
Mhm.
And they already are putting out headsets that are doing this, light shows at 40 hertz and sound waves coming across it with headsets. But I like where you're going, Jim. Is like it seems like if this is beneficial, it should just be integrated into the way we're living life.
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps they'll come out with a home unit similar to electric toothbrush, and everybody can have one.
Yeah, I really think that we're going to see that at CSS next year, without a doubt, because they talk about these things are already being put out on the market before they've gotten any. They have it's still in what is it when you're do they even use the terminology here? It's still in its study um gosh, I don't have the vocabulary today, I guess. It hasn't been it's still a theory, it's still a hypothesis, no, it's still a theory. It hasn't been proven, but they have very convincing evidence. These are all words that I'm making up because I can't come up with the right words.
Beta testing.
Say again?
Beta testing.
Yeah, that's probably a way to do it. They've been doing these studies. Yeah, this is since 2016, since they did their original study in 2016, and they've had nothing but positive results from these therapies. And so their approach to it is, you might as well do it. It's not going to hurt, and eventually their work is going to be recognized from their point of view. It's going to be recognized as a legitimate therapy for Alzheimer's. But their point is there's no reason not to get into it ahead of time before that point, before the scientific anoints it, the scientific community anoints it with that, because it's the risk is so low. Why wouldn't you try anything? Now I put it like that, and it sounds like I'm trying to sell you on something.
Yeah. Fuller Brush has to make one.
It's a very intelligently written article. I recommend reading through it if you find this interesting. And I have, in fact, here I just happened to flip to a paragraph where it's talking about certain products that are already out there. Like there's a $2,000 light box that emits several nearly imperceivable 40 hertz flickers, designed to be easy on the eyes, intense, other than like strobes. Because I guess that's what we're really talking about with this oscillation. You actually could see the difference between 20. You said 25. Are you sure it wasn't 50?
No, it was 25. I remember, and once you had experienced 60, you really did notice the difference.
Yeah.
And I can't remember whether it was all of Ontario, whether some towns had gone, because in the early days there was no no grid. Each town had its own system.
Wow.
Isn't most of the world on 50 and 220?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the way I understand it, Chester. That the United States is 120, and Mexico and Canada, but that's really something that happened over on this side, and the rest of the world is 220.
And
It
50
has
hertz.
something to do with the safety. If I remember back, that 220 is so strong it can kill people, and the U.S. decided to go with the 110 because you could live through it. I guess that's what I remember. And you
Gunpowder
guys,
kills people too. Gunpowder kills people too. So, just how you handle it in both cases. I know. I agree. That was the what they said in the old days, Sandy. But it just. I mean, I've lived in Europe, and it just like dull knives hurt people, but people don't mess with with electricity
Mhm.
in Europe. You know.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, and like electricity was invented in the United States. It was, I mean, it was DC with Edison, and it was AC with Tesla, and the 110 was Tesla's idea. He brought his ideas from Europe, but they were put together in the United States, and I think 220 came later. I think we already had such an infrastructure of 110 when the idea of having 220, the advantages of having 220 were being adopted in Europe and other places. It was too late to do that in the American market. At that time, there's already such a saturation of successful 110 installations that became the American and henceforth the Mexican, and I believe spun to Canada as well. There was no reason. It all came down to supply and infrastructure, what was being used at the time.
The irony is most of us have 220 in our homes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or the stoves, right?
Right. Yeah. A dryer,
Yeah.
Dryer, well, or we use gas.
heating, electric heating,
Hmm.
things like that. So
And that's really just two phases of 110 that have come into your house at the same time.
Interesting.
But even talking about Tesla, he would love this 40 hertz thing. He was a big believer of harmonics and natural energy, and that's what his machine was based on. That free energy machine that he had been working on, that tower in Colorado. The idea being that the Earth moves in a cycle. There's an undulation that happens, and that you can build up electricity by adding a little to it each time that cycle goes through, and it gradually grows. The man was fascinating. They tell stories of lightning shooting out of his lab 5 miles into the sky. They talk about him at state fairs, holding light bulbs and making light arcs across his hands.
That was due to low amperage, but
Yeah.
also the first basic use of his invention, other than the AC motor, which was the big thing. But one of the uses, the early uses, was as an electric chair, was demonstrating the power of 110 AC current.
Well, what you're reminding me of is that he was going to state fairs. Edison was going around to state fairs. He's really trying to sell the idea of DC, DC electricity.
32 volts.
And places were catching on fire because of running electricity in the same direction with that much resistance. It heats up like a filament and starts a fire. And so Edison invested in fire departments and tried to sell DC, and say he'd go around to state fairs and electrocute animals with AC power, showing how dangerous it was.
Yeah, he electrocuted an elephant.
Yeah. But Tesla would go around to state fairs and he would run lightning bolts across his shoulders, showing how safe it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Wow,
whole
I didn't know.
the whole of the prairies in Canada, which is, I'm sure it was the same in the United States. They had a system that was a 32 volt system that was run on windmills, that like the same ones that used to pump the wells and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the rural electrification happened in Canada, they just went out and they replaced people's world with this wires that came to their house, and all those old windmills and the batteries. There were beautiful glass batteries and everything just got stuck in barns, and left there. So there was a time, maybe in the 80s, when some the hippies got a hold of this idea, and realized that this was good stuff, and it was all out there with beautiful table saws and so on. And they were all done in that old way. You know how they used to pinstripe on bicycles and so on like that. These were all. And I met a guy up in Alberta that his whole world was wired with 110 and 220. And it had 12 volt, because his kids all like to play with 8-track tapes in those days, and 32 volts. His shop and a lot of his things like refrigerators and things like that, he was running them all on 32, and he's using these beautiful glass batteries and wind. That was
Jim, if I get anything from this meeting, I'm gonna go Google these glass batteries. I want to see some pictures of that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Love stuff like that.
I had a battery jar. It was the size of an ice chest on end, and I used it for a marine aquarium because it had no metal parts to it.
Okay.
And so as it sat, it was probably 18 inches by 18 inches on the bottom and 24 inches high. The opening was at the top, 24 inches.
Yeah. They'd have, and in the Bell Canada installations, they had whole walls of them all set up. I don't know what they're using them for, but I remember them.
I also wanted to say that regarding the 110, I know that there's electricians that if they wonder if a light bulb receptacle is hot or not, they just stick their finger in it, and if it bites them, they know it's hot.
I know.
I used to try that with his sister.
That's why you have to have a sibling.
Yeah.
If you're going to do any electrical work
Well,
as a young person, you should have a sibling.
Yeah, go see if that electric fence is hot.
Right, exactly. Hey, Bill, I saw you
Scott
had your...
used to use batteries. It was batteries with Scott. Stacy, see if this works. Stick it on your tongue. Oh, poor thing.
Okay,
Bill, you had your hand up, and I found some
One
pictures
is the
here. Go ahead.
The electric fence crossing was always your brother's, just over there.
Yeah, but your audio is horrible.
Lean in.
Lean in.
Anyway, how about now? Is
It's
it
a little
better?
better.
Yep.
Okay. The test for electric fences was with your brother standing there, and they would bet you can't be that high. That was the test. But when I started farming with my family, we bought a farm that was semi-abandoned. It had been ended.
Hey, Bill, get closer to your microphone. We're catching every other word.
Okay, but I can't. I just have to say it was a great story, but it's not going to happen.
I'm sorry. You're really breaking up bad, man. When you leaned in the first time, it made a dramatic difference. No? Okay. Well, I've Googled batteries, so if you're looking at my screen, this is what I'm looking at. I had no idea there were glass batteries. That's really cool. I'm sorry I can't bring them up any faster, but my computer is just at its wit's end. This is the most it can do all at the same time.
Yeah. They're quite thick.
No, that's amazing. I'd love to get a hold of one just to have. I'd put it on a shelf, show it off to people. Farm lighting.
Well, anyway,
Would glass batteries be more friendly to the environment in terms of when you dispose of them? Would there be any difference, or
Well, the
Well,
glass is inert.
the beauty of this style of construction is that you can service the battery. And that's what's missing right now from our culture is everything's been sealed in plastic cases. If the battery goes bad, you're expected to, well, recycle it in this day and age, but get rid of it in general and buy another one. And these batteries being built in this style are intended to be serviced. In fact, I imagine during that time period, there was no consideration for replacing it unless the glass broke.
That glass was unlikely it would break. What do you think, Paul? They were very thick, weren't they?
Well, they were thick and optically they were like old window glass. You know, they had blebs in the glass and wavy lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
just functional glass, not aesthetics at all.
So I imagine people would set these things up and they would recognize the battery's not performing as well. The other thing I'm noticing by looking at these is you could do a visual inspection and see if the battery's performing well. Whether there's sediment at the bottom, whether it's collected on the cathode.
They bubbled while they were charging.
Yeah. So even without checking it with an electric charger, you could make a visual inspection and see whether your battery's healthy or not. And I would imagine there were cycles of maintenance you'd do on these batteries. You'd find some had problems, and you'd have a day when you were like cleaning off lead plates and refilling sulfuric acid. That's what I'm assuming is in it. Very cool. Something I didn't know anything about. Thank you, James. Well,
I have OLD.
We are reaching the end of this meeting. I need to go back to real work, even though this is lots of fun. I've gone through all my topics, and what we normally do at the end of a meeting is we talk about things we'd recommend to each other. Shows and movies, but also books and podcasts, websites, events that are coming up. Any of these things are considered recommendations, and if you've brought something, this is your time to share it with us. Who wants to go first?
I think it's Holdovers. Did people see it?
Yes, loved it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good movie. Watched it last night.
That was the Christmas movie with Paul
Giovanni.
Giovanni, thank you.
Yeah, did a great job on that.
Really enjoyed that. That's actually, we added that to our Christmas movie list. That will be the one we're watching again next Christmas.
Oh, did you? Great.
I think
Mom?
once I told you about Tokyo Vice, 2022. There's 2 seasons, and we found it on Radiosity. Our problem with it is it's in English and Japanese, and they don't dub the Japanese for you, or if they do dub, they dub in Japanese. So if anybody finds that on someplace else where we can get English Japanese, I would really appreciate it. It's about an American reporter that goes into Japan, wants to be a reporter, a newbie wants to be a reporter. And he goes into Tokyo, decides, well, I'd like to live in Japan. And he learns the language and does everything. And then he's assigned to the police detective squad, this specialized squad that he travels around with. And it just looks really good and exciting, but you only get the English side, which isn't enough for the story. So it is, I didn't write down the rating on it. It was really high, I remember.
Yeah, I see a 99% rating on Amazon. I don't know how that compares to an IMDb. I just did a search on Just Watch because I was curious where you can watch it. Amazon has popped up twice in my general searches maybe it's available on Prime. I'm bringing up Just
Hmm.
Watch now to Just Watch in the U.S. It looks like it's on Max and Hulu. 2 seasons.
Oh, good. Okay, so perhaps we can get English there. I'll check it out. Another one is One Life with Anthony Hopkins. It's a 7.8 on IBM or IMB, and it's Germans invading. Has to do with England and train children and stuff like that. And it's found on Radiosity. We watched it. I have a big star by it, but right now I can't remember why. Because, I mean, other than Anthony Hopkins and the story, I guess, is very well told, if I remember
movie?
right. Yeah,
And it's called One Life.
One Life.
Very cool. Have we got any other recommendations out there? Cheryl? You got your list?
Well, no, I'm just trying to find the one I watched. I think it was on Netflix, and I think it was called One More Day or One Day.
Oh.
One More Day, maybe.
One day.
One Day?
One day
Yeah.
is what I have for Netflix. What did you think about
I
that?
enjoyed it.
There's also a
premise-
One Life.
Pardon me?
Oh, never mind. You will go on with what you were saying. I confused myself.
No, I'm pretty sure it was called One Day. But anyways, it was a couple. They've been at university together in Edinburgh, I believe, Scotland, and they basically meet at their final graduation day. And then they keep coming back every year, and they end up, having a life together, ins and outs and back and forths. But it was really interesting. It's a series, and but it's completed, like one season, beginning to end.
Limited
I
series.
call them, miniseries or a limited series. Yeah,
It's got really
acting was
high.
pretty good in it.
It's got really high ratings. IMDb is 8.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes is 91%.
Yeah.
People like it.
We watched it. And it was very good. And I think that it reminded me a lot of Same Time Next Year.
Yeah.
Years
Oh
ago.
yeah. Yeah, a little bit. I like that. Yeah.
I kind of thought it was almost like a remake of the idea, but they did a great job. It wasn't like I was bored because I had seen it before.
It wasn't quite as sweet as this Same Time. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was more raw.
Is that an Alan Alda movie?
Yeah,
Same Time Next
maybe.
Year?
Yeah, and
I think you're right.
the woman that was in it.
Someone that was very popular back then.
Yeah.
I'm gonna write it down on.
I've seen it as a stage play and watched the movie. So that one's been around for a long time. But yeah, the kind of premise is there. But this one was, it had everything in it, dealing with alcoholism, death in your family, grieving, different things.
Sexual abuse.
Yeah, not making up to your expectations of others and different things like that. So yeah, it was a very well written and acted.
You're really talking me out of it. There isn't one thing you mentioned there that I'm interested in watching in my fantasy enjoying TV area. Yeah, I get really upset when my TV starts hitting like reality points.
We were all there in the '60s, so we don't need fantasy anymore.
I need rocket ships. I need superheroes. I don't need alcoholics and abusive parental figures. That's not entertaining to me.
Yeah,
well, I don't know that it was entertaining. It was very it was enjoyable to watch it.
Yeah,
has anybody watched the next installment of Alien, Resident Alien?
So we're
Not-
just
not
in the
yet.
first season. We just started it.
Oh, you just started on the first season. Okay. And how are you enjoying it?
Very much. Yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
I just started last night, and I watched about 4 episodes to the point where his wife shows up.
Oh, don't tell us that. You spoiler alert, and you just blurted it out there.
Oh, I've got one we just finished that we really enjoyed. Life and Beth. I think it's on Netflix.
Life and Death?
No, Beth. The main character is Amy
Schumer.
Schumacher.
Schumer?
Schumer.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of hers. I haven't appreciated her humor, her comedy. This movie, it's really she keeps it on a realistic level. Her humor, her humor is typically very self-deprecating, but it's typically over the top. And this was just a really really nice story of this girl that finds a guy, and the guy is kind of a strange, almost autistic kind of guy, played by Michael Ceren, and she falls for him, even though it just doesn't. It's not what she would normally go for. And it's a great series. It's called Life and Beth, and you start out with her at where it looks like she's making things work, but she's not happy, and everything kind of changes for her when she meets this guy.
I have one last to remark on.
Okay.
Somebody in the club brought this. Maybe it was you, Scott. The Swimmers. The Swimmers. I don't know if it's plural. 7.4 on IMB, and it's a survival story of an immigrant survival story, and it was just wonderful.
I was the one that brought it, and I found it after I watched Naiad, the one about the swimmer, and then I found this other one, The Swimmers, because there's two sisters.
I just read that single.
Yeah, and it was a really good movie. It just grabs you, and yeah, and it's based on facts.
Yeah, and it leaves you feeling really good at the end. But oh my gosh, do you develop some appreciation for how hard these immigrants work to get to a safe place?
Is it Swimmers or The Swimmers?
The
Swimmers.
Yeah, because I went to find it.
It's relatively new, 2022. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and it has a 7.4 on IMDb.
I found it. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is quite a list this week. I'm looking it over, and there's 3 on it that I'm not that I'm familiar with. Everything else here I have not done. So check out our document if you're looking for some recommendations for TV and movie. I gotta go. We gotta call this to a conclusion.
Next week.
Same time next week. I'll be back in San Carlos. If you're in San Carlos, come join us for an in-person meeting. We will be a virtual meeting. We're always a virtual meeting. But when I'm in San Carlos, we'll do an in-person meeting in Tequilas. Until next Tuesday, everybody, tech on.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, that's it. We did it again. I am very fortunate to work with patient people that allow me to do this in the middle of the work day, week that I am here doing work, but I've got to get back to it. So until next Tuesday, everybody tech on and keep it easy. We'll see you then. Adios.